Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Antoine Hines, and I just want to make an announcement. Many of you know me as an author. Many of you know me as a musician. Some of you know me as a speaker, a preacher, a teacher. But many of you don't know me as a podcaster. And so this announcement is that I'm going to be launching a brand new podcast. Now, I know a lot of people are doing this right now, but let me explain to you that I set on this assignment that I feel is from God for a couple of years now. Reason being is those of you that see me sing and play piano and speak, some of you have told me like, man, you make it look so easy. But I want to tell you, if it wasn't for God, I probably wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't do it. I'm going to be honest, because there's not a time that I do those things and I'm super nervous every time. And so I held back on stepping out on doing this podcast because I was afraid, one. And one of the things that I struggled with in the past, I call it in the past right now, is starting things but not finishing them. And it's interesting that I consider myself as being an introvert, but it's interesting because every gift that God has given me, I recognize is not for me to keep to myself. Now, that alone is a word for somebody. The gifts and the talents that God has given you is not for you to hoarder and keep to yourself. They are meant to be shared. And so the purpose of this podcast is to help people simplify life while pointing them to Christ. And as a result of pointing them to Christ, they get to discover what their purpose is. Now, I want to go into it so bad right now, but I got to save that for the upcoming episodes. But there were some questions that someone asked me in regards to this podcast. And so I feel like it'd be cool to answer those questions right now, but I'm going to read them first. First question was this: what is this podcast going to be about? This podcast is about, as I said earlier, helping people simplify life. Now, raise your hand if you don't want your life simplified? You got a lot of stuff going on. You a mom, you a dad, you a deacon, you a bus driver, you a construction worker. Like, you got all these different hats that you're wearing and you just want to scream sometimes. But this podcast is going to help you simplify life while pointing you to Christ. And as a result, you'll discover what your purpose is. And so that's what this podcast is going to be about. And that's just some quick insight on it. Next question is this: who am I? Who am I, Antoine Hines? I'll first start off by saying that I am no better than anybody else. I just made a decision years ago to live for Christ. And as I continue to learn about God, like the more I learn about God, the more I discover who I really am. Many of us get trapped in what we do and we say that's who we are. And if you have a lot of gifts and a lot of talents, it becomes dangerous because you're like, man, I'm a songwriter. Man, I'm an author. It's like, no, let's simplify it. Now, I'm going to give you just a little bit. As a believer, our purpose is to be like Jesus. Now, the amazing thing about that is we have a blueprint, which is the Bible, that shows us the life of Jesus. And as we read, and we're going to unpack that in future episodes, as we read, we'll find out more about Jesus and how we're supposed to be. Now, the amazing thing is when you've discovered and accept, because you can't just discover it and not accept it. When you accept that you are purposed on earth to be a continuation of Jesus Christ, then you'll look at your gifts and your talents differently. You won't look at them as that's who you are. You'll look at it as it's just an added blessing to being like Christ in the earth. Isn't that cool? That God will create you to be like Jesus, but then also give you gifts to go along with it. So that's just a little bit. All right, I'm about to start getting into it already. I need to calm down a little bit. So more of the question wouldn't be, I guess, most people don't want to know who I am. They want to know what I do. So I'm a musician, as I mentioned earlier. I am a preacher. I am a speaker. I'm an author. I wish I would have did better with the order of how that goes, but you get the picture. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm all of these things, and I want to say that all of those are amazing gifts. Remember, I said I'm an author, a father, a husband, a writer, a musician. All of those things are added blessings to me being like Christ in the earth. And so I get the opportunity, I get the privilege of not only being like Christ, but having all of those things as gifts as well. So that's what I do and who I am, I guess. All right, next question. Who is this content for? Okay. This content that you're going to be getting is for everybody. I'll say this, everybody is welcome, but I do recognize that everybody is not going to stay. Now, this is a journey for me. It's a new journey for me, but then the amazing thing is, and the cool thing about it is, y'all get to journey with me. But I feel like a lot of people, or some people, may not stay because we're going to be dealing with real stuff, real issues. And this is very much a faith-based podcast, but there's not going to be not one topic that we're not going to touch. But here's the thing about it is, my goal with this podcast is to show the world that there's a biblical solution to every problem that we'll ever face in this life. That's my goal. And so this content is for everybody. It's for believers and followers of Christ and those that want to be. All right. And on top of that, this is also for purpose-driven people. Those who recognize that they were put on earth for more than what they're doing right now. This podcast is for you. Next question. What can viewers expect to get? You can expect love. You can expect truth. A whole lot of love, a whole lot of truth, and full transparency. All right? And not just any kind of love, but real love. And we'll talk about that in future episodes. Real love, real truth, and full transparency. That's what you're going to get. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about everything. All right? Everything. Next question. What does this content, why does this content matter, right? Yes. Okay. The reason why this content matters is because people are in search for real love and haven't found it yet. And we beat up human beings because the love that we're searching for, a human can't give it to us. We'll get into that in future episodes. And also this content matter because people are tired of being lied to. A lot of people are in search for truth. And I want to help us discover the truth. And of course, the truth is in the Word of God. We'll get into that later too. Another reason why this content matters is because you are going to get full transparency, nothing hidden. And it's interesting because you hear the word transparent, or I gotta be transparent, or transparency, and it's thrown around loosely, but I want to give a definition of what transparency actually is. All right, so transparency is the quality of allowing light to pass through so that objects behind can distinctly or clearly be seen. So transparency brings clarity. It's actually to see through, all right? And so what I mean by getting full transparency, we're not gonna hide nothing, right? If there's questions, and that's another thing when it comes to this podcast, you're gonna be able to send in questions, inbox me questions. I don't care what it is. I am going to do all that I can. Me and my team are going to do all that we can to make sure that we don't just hear your problem without a solution. And if we don't have a solution to the problem that you're facing at the moment, we are going to do everything possible to make sure that we find the solution to to the problem. And so that is just a few questions that was asked in regards to what this podcast is going to be about. And so you all have a lot to look forward to. I'm excited. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I want you to alert everybody, let everybody know that Antoine Hines is starting a podcast. And what's the name of it? Pod 828, where we talk about all things. Thanks for watching this video. I pray that this has been a blessing to you, and I'll see y'all next time.